and welcome back to the workshop. Today I'm going to be showing some tips and tricks for zippered ends, how to get them consistently the same every single time. And I will be showing you a couple of different methods so you can choose the method that works best for you. So there's a couple of different methods that I default to regardless of what the instructions called for. So you need to understand the type of materials that you are using to cover up the ends. So this is a vinyl, which this is actually going to be going on the outside of a pattern. So I wanted to make something nice that would match, but this concept works the same for the inside of a bag as well. There's a couple of key ingredients to making this successful. So you can use cork, you can use vinyl, something that is not going to fray on the edges. This is actually only, so you see this piece, the width is 3/4 of an inch. And that's number one, that's the first key, is 3/4 of an inch wide. Because it's so small, I like to make it longer than how the zipper is so that I have something to grip onto. It's easy to trim it off later. The second key ingredient to making this successful is double-sided tape. And I put the double-sided tape onto either the piece of cork or the piece of vinyl. So you're going to put it one piece here along this edge and one piece here along this edge. Expose the adhesion, and then you're going to get your zipper, and when you put it in, when you fold it, you see that zipper, it is touching the very end, and you're going to wrap around the zipper. And so with the double-sided tape, you would have it like that, and it's all sealed, and then you come back and you do one stitching right along the edge here, no more than 1/8 of an inch, really just a smidge from the edge, but make sure it's even. And I have found that the only way to be successful with such a small piece of material like this is the double-sided tape. If you don't have double-sided tape, then you can use a glue stick. Be generous on here because it tends to have this fuzzy background or a thicker back. And then when you put it on, you're going to need to clip it, or even better, put it under like a heavy book or a piece of wood until it dries, and then come back and stitch. So the double-sided tape is, you can get right along to it, but if you don't have any on hand, you can still do this method with some glue sticks. So that gives you more options as far as different types of vinyl you want it to match up, cork, etc. You can do that. The other method, material that I like is this stuff. Honestly, I don't know the official name for it. It has a woven canvasy feel on this side, which is nice and soft. The back side has been coated with some kind of rubber, plastic, something that makes it waterproof. So it's very, very thin. And when you fold it twice, it's no thicker than a piece of cardstock. It's very, very thin. Look at what your local shop has or what you might already have in your stash that might work. So why does this work? Because when you cut the edge, there's no fraying. Number one. And number two, it is so thin. When you're doing zippered ends or things inside of a wallet, there are so many layers in a wallet that bulk begins to form really quickly. So I try to use the thinnest material as possible, and then reduce how many times it gets folded. So I could use the same method, fold over like this. I would put double-sided tape on the inside, and then I would cut this down to only 3/4 of an inch wide this way, and then I would fold it over, and then I could stitch it. There's nothing wrong with that. It works perfectly fine. However, if your stitching is not dead on here, and then you have a tiny little flip. So I try to take it to the next level, but still keep the bulk to a minimum. Because this is so thin, this method works. So what I do is, this is 1.25 inches wide. So 1.25 inches wide. So this is 3/4 of an inch and it only folds over once. This is 1.25 inches. And then I will come here. I will stitch 1/4 inch away from the edge of this tab material. Oh, okay. I'll fold this up. I'll wrap it around to the back. Now, I'm wrapping it touching the zipper. And I get a slight overhang. Do you see that? There is a slight overhang. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and I'm going to stitch in the ditch right along here. You won't see the stitching from the top. You won't see this extra flap from the top either, because after you do this in a wallet or whatever, you're going to have, this is going to be all hidden. And that's it. I like to leave, again, I like to leave it a little wider than my zipper. It gives me a little leeway, gives me a little something to grab. But I like this method the best. This is my default method that I use. You could do this same folding method with cork or a vinyl that's really, really thin, because now you've got 3 layers. The other method is, let's pretend this is quilting fabric. To reduce the bulk, I would not interface this little piece. There's not going to be any tension here, so you don't need to make it stronger. And we want to keep the bulk down. And with this method, because the ends do fray, that's 4 layers of fabric. If you were to add interfacing, then now you're talking about 8 layers, and the bulk, like I said, adds up really, really quickly on the end of your zipper with all the folds. So basically what you're doing with fabric is you're folding to the center and folding like this. So you see you have 4 layers, and then you bump that in there and then stitch. I would recommend that you iron it, give it a nice tight crease like this, fabric, and then when you just slip this in, everything blends. You could also stitch, then bring it up around, bring this here, and then fold it over, and then stitch again. So you can stitch it twice. So whichever method works for you, you end up with the same. But yeah, some patterns say lay them together like this, so you have right side up and right side up. So it's right side and wrong side facing. Stitch, pull this back, pull this to the center to touch, and then fold it over, and then top stitch there. If you didn't want the top stitching, you could do it in the reverse. So you would have zipper right side up, fabric right side down, so you would have both right sides facing in this method. Stitch, bring it around this way, again, fold it, put it over. But if you bumped that back piece off center just a smidge, see that, just a smidge, if you stitched in the ditch there, you could hide your stitching and still get it all attached in one. So kind of a long, complicated video regarding that, but I just wanted to cover all the methods because you come across different explanations and different directions to ultimately get to the same results. So there you have it, a couple of different ways depending on the different materials that you choose so that you can make the ends of your zippers nice, tidy, and neat. If you found this video helpful, can you please take a moment and hit the thumbs up button? That would be fabulous. If you have any questions about something that I covered today, please ask me below. In addition, if you have any questions about other sewing methods that I may be able to help you out with, please ask me. I'm more than happy to help you out on whatever knowledge I have about bag making so that you can continue a successful bag making adventure. So until next time, go and happy sewing.